Okay, good afternoon to everybody in the US and Canada. Good evening, afternoon, late afternoon to those of you in the Europe and Middle East. And welcome to the Packard Network Live. I'm really pleased to have a special guest on today's program that we planned a long time ago, but for scheduling reasons, we're just now getting around to actually connecting it and bringing it all together. But I promise all of you that it'll be well worth the wait over the next hour. What my special guest, Mr. David Alto, and I will be talking about. So, David is coming to us live from the beautiful state of Washington in the Northeast. And David, I'd like to just pause right here and I'll finish the intro in a minute, but welcome to the program.
Yeah, no, thank you, Brett. Yeah, I know we scheduled this a long time ago, but you're a busy man, and so I had to get on your calendar.
Oh, well, it's a little bit of both of us, but it's great to have you here. So just a little bit more about David here. David is a resume writer, a job coach, a career coach, a LinkedIn coach, job search, and an executive coach. So I'm waiting for him to add a professional sports team to the coaching credentials, but I'm sure that he's working on that. And but basically, David has helped over 300 middle management and C-suite professionals land new careers within the past year. So I think 10 months to be exact. And that's phenomenal if you think about it. So 300 people, new positions. We've got the pandemic era economy where things are getting reshaped, and companies some are going through chaos, others are well organized, and David kind of helps people sort out, figure out where the trade winds are and the currents, and he helps them find the smoothest pathway towards getting where they want to get to. And so basically, David has extensive experience hiring people. So he's been on the other end of this as well. We're going to talk a bit about that and the genesis of where David really built his foundation to do what he's doing today. He's been a grassroots recruiter, decades of interviewing people. And then something in today's world, which a lot of the job seekers are having to deal with, is something called bots. We'll talk about what that means, what that is, and how to beat the bots. So we'll define what that means, and David can talk about how he helps people with that. It's something that's very necessary. That back when I was wanting to start out my career in the late 1980s, that they didn't have bots, so I didn't have to deal with that. But now it's a very real thing that either you can use as a tool or it can be a blocker. And so we're going to talk a bit about that. David helps people craft resumes, but it doesn't stop there. He helps them tell a story. So David will get to know people really well. And I've met some of his clients that are very happy people, landed well on their feet. But he will help people build a story, which involves the resume. It involves LinkedIn, the LinkedIn platform. It involves networking as well. He's also authored some books on these particular subjects. And so you can really read all about how to do this. You can also engage with David on it multiple times a day on LinkedIn and find out many job seeking tips. So there's just a whole array of information. But today we're really going to talk about David as a person. And our conversation will evolve a bit into the job seeking territory. But David, we're going to really want to get to know you and really what makes you tick over the course of the next several minutes as well. We're streaming live on LinkedIn, Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter right now. So I'd like to encourage you. I'll be spending most of the audience I anticipate will be on LinkedIn. And so for those of you, please let David and I know if you're watching live, let us know where you're watching live from. We'd love to see that. and also for those of and also queue up your questions, anything that you'd like to know. Same with Facebook as well. I'll be dipping over to Facebook and obviously taking questions over there as well. I usually have a couple people from Africa that like to do that on Facebook. So I won't forget you, but I'll probably hit Facebook in the second half hour of our conversation. So with that, David, it's great to have you here. Why don't we start out before I get into, I'll start to acknowledge some of the people on LinkedIn in just a moment. But David, why don't we kind of start out, and maybe you could start at your university time, and tell us about your university days, and tell us about your first job.
Okay, well, I think I bounced around. I thought I wanted to be an accountant when I was pretty young. So I got into accounting and then realized I couldn't sit behind a desk all day. I had to be a little bit more involved, more hands-on. First job, well, that's a tricky one. All right, so I was an entrepreneur probably about the age of 9 or 10. So my dad and I always went fishing, and we dug earthworms in our backyard because we had this dirt patch. We'd put a board, we'd throw some water on it, put a board on it, go out at like 11 o'clock at night, lift the board. They'd be all there, real big, fat, thick ones, right? Great for fishing. So I'm like, well, a lot of people would want these. So I, like, on the street corner, I put a sign up. I can't remember what I sold them for, but I made some decent money. I still remember this, and this was 40 plus years ago. I still remember that my best customer was this guy that kept on, anytime I was out there, he bought tons of them. I mean, just like wiped me out if you showed up. And I finally asked him, well, he had piranhas at home, so that's what he fed them. Yeah, wow. Yeah, kind of illegal, but probably anyway. But
okay. But they weren't yours, so it's okay.
They weren't mine. Who cares, right?
You just help keep them alive, right? Yeah,
that's right. So I mean, delivering newspapers. I look back because my mom let me go knock on the doors, because back then you had to knock every month and knock on and collect money, right, for newspapers.
Right.
So I look back, and that that helped me, talk to people, even at an early age. First real job, 16 years old, working at Abby's Pizza, being a dishwasher. Got fired from that job, by the way. And I don't think you're anything until you got fired more than at least a few times.
Right.
So, and then just various jobs, because I just, I enjoyed working, but I didn't know really what I wanted to do. I told you, originally I wanted to be an accountant, and that did help me in my, in the future there. But just realized I couldn't sit behind a desk literally all day. I needed a little bit more hands-on with employees and customers. So
yeah, you're a people guy. Yeah.
Oh yes.
Yeah.
So that's a little bit, I guess.
Great. Okay, good. So that's good. So as you're growing up and everything, how about your first job leading people? You want to tell us a bit about that?
Sure. I was a store manager in the in retail, in the rent to own industry, renting TVs and appliances and household furnishings. And I don't think I know I wasn't ready, but somebody saw something in me, and I look back, I was a terrible leader, but I had some leaders that weren't very good themselves, so how did I get things done through others? I just told them, damn it, you don't get to question me, you just do it, right? But looking back, I wasn't I wasn't a good leader until somebody really took me under my wing to really understand it is supporting people. We were always involved in with sales, and so again, it's really how do you motivate people to do things when you're not there. And I still
Right.
remember, my boss. I finally got a good boss. My boss gave me the book, 1 Minute Manager. That really helped me. That really helped me introduce and how to much spend, how much time to spend actually, 1 minute reprimand, 1 minute, praise, 1 minute goal setting, and really how you have to have those, right? So that was my
Hmm.
first leadership book, that I had, and then I got to be a district manager where, overseeing 10 to 12 different stores, all of the managers and the direct reports and the indirect reports.
Hmm.
And then you really, because you can't be in all those locations at once, right? So
Right.
it's really leaving your mark when, after you leave. And when I
Hmm.
realized that, a lot of times if you're a multi-unit manager or dealing with big teams, um, you know, you're really just a cost on their P&L, right? So did they get their money's worth for when you were visiting that store, that location, right? What did you
Hmm.
do to uplift? What you do to uplift people while you were there,
Right.
in that store?
Mm.
So
Mm.
and I do miss that job. I love doing what I'm doing now, but of course now I don't get to work with necessarily teams going in there, and I do kind of miss that. But I do get to help even more people. It's just usually on a one-on-one basis.
Yeah, and I think that's an interesting point. I'd like to zero in on something you said there. So you went from managing people, leading people, to basically managing managers, right? If I got that
Yes.
right, because that's kind of what
Yes.
the district and geographical piece does as well. What would you say was the biggest eye opener? Because that's quite different when you make that leap from just managing somebody that you see every day, all the time,
Yes.
8 hours a day, 10 hours a day, to, now you're doing a bit of remote management and you're managing managers. What was the big
Sure.
difference for you? Yeah.
Well, I think that I really wanted to manage those managers. And here's the thing is, usually those managers, and then I had to, somebody took me and said time out and had a discussion with me, but I had to think back of how I wanted to be managed, right? When I was a manager and I had
Mm,
a district manager as a boss.
mm,
And a lot of times those managers are in place because he or she, they know what they're doing, right? So when I learned that when I went into a store, I would
mm.
spend 80% of the time with the indirect reports, with my
Okay.
managers'
Mm,
teams. Why? Well, I don't want them to be afraid of the mean district manager coming into their stores, right? I wanted to role play with them. I wanted to to be a resource. So when they saw me walking in the door randomly, of course, unannounced,
mhm.
they wanted to interact with me. They knew the very first thing that I was going to do is the first employee that I saw that was a role play, as long as they were not busy, but that was a role play, and they had to attempt to beat me,
Yeah.
and I didn't make it that easy. Well, depending on their level of experience, obviously, but
Sure. Yeah. Right.
when I realized I'm there to support the manager in whatever I need to do to help him or her with some issues, whether it's hiring or training or helping them find time to manage their teams better. But when I realized that when I spent more time with my manager's direct reports, well, guess what though? I was helping build the next future managers because I was building relationships with those people, so
Mm.
that way if and when they became managers or
Yep.
assistant managers or whatever, I already had that relationship with them. I It's so funny, this happened to me the other day.
Uh,
I went into a retail store, and some of these employees around the store were like all frantic, and I'm thinking, okay, well, why? Well, then I
mm.
see a guy in a suit, and I said this. I said, hey, that's your district manager or regional director, right? They're like, how do you know? Are you a mystery shopper? How do you know this? Like, I
Yeah.
could just sense. I can sense it, but
Yeah.
I could sense though, you can't lead by that. They should welcome that district or regional director when they come into a location. So, and if you're leading by fear, oh boy, you've got it all wrong.
Oh yeah, that's right. Because everybody can feel it, right? And you had an extra sense because you had done that before, but you
Sure.
you can feel the tension, in the room as well. And I think that it's an important topic for those in leadership when they make that transition from managing individuals to managing managers, that it's more than mentorship. It's not micromanagement, like many people think it might be, and that type of thing. But what kind of legacy are you leaving, and the imprint and the impact on their jobs and their life ultimately, right? Because that's actually what great leaders do. And what is your legacy at that former job, would you say? Because it's been, a few years, right, since you've
Oh yes.
been
Oh
there.
yeah.
Yeah.
No, I still hear from them. I went out of town to visit my mom a couple months ago, and there's one of the
Mm.
stores that's still there. I walked
Yeah.
in, just said, hey, and they're like, oh, Dave, hey, nice seeing you. Are you coming back? Is that why you're here? No, I'm not coming back. But,
Yeah.
I have great relationships with them. I text them on their birthday or call them because I still have those dates, because even if people leave us,
Mm.
on good terms or whatever, but even if people leave us, they don't need to leave our lives. Okay. They left our work life,
Right.
right?
Hmm.
But if they were important to us during our work career, why wouldn't they be important? And some of these people
Yeah.
I've known for 20 years.
Yeah.
So
Right.
why would I stop just not working there? So,
Yeah. Mm.
that's, and I like to think that their continued success, if one of them just won a trip, not too long ago, he sent me a message over on LinkedIn and told me I was
Mm.
proud of him. I'm still proud of him.
Yeah, that's
When
awesome.
you
Yeah.
build,
Mm.
yes, when you build relationships again, just because you don't work, together doesn't mean that has to go away. If they meant something to you during that time when you work together, then darn it,
Mm.
when you leave, why can't they still mean something to you?
Precisely. Yeah, I think you're spot on about that. And it also, I view leadership as you have oversight for a village, and your job is to make sure that everybody in that village can eat. And that doesn't just mean your employees, that means their families as well. Okay. So that will automatically force you to develop some empathy for what those families might be dealing with. Maybe they're raising an infant. Maybe it's a single mother that has to worry about daycare. It could be a whole array of things right now, and problems that obviously in the US economy right now are leading to the great resignation. They might seem obvious and everybody kind of agrees with them, but it's quite obvious that a lot of leaders don't get it. The fact that they're responsible for the village mentality, and to teaching them and teaching them how to be self-sustainable, so that they can actually fare for their own down the road as well when that happens. And a lot of people, I continue to be baffled by the great resignation and how these disconnects have happened. Do you have any views on that, David?
Listen, I still come back, and it's probably the same for you. If I look back 20 years ago, if a boss yelled at me or cussed at me, I just figured I didn't do a good job or whatever. But in a different environment now.
Mm.
For whatever reason, but people are less likely to put up. They're just less likely to put up with things. Apple wanted everybody back. Apple had said during COVID, nobody's ever going to come back to the office.
Mm.
Well, maybe a couple people, right? And then they changed their mind, and the employees were like, "Hey, see you later."
Yeah.
And so Apple backed off. Um, I, I'm starting to see at the beginning of this year, people going, "Hey, I got to get back to work," or "I
Hmm.
want to get back to work."
Yeah.
But what we're seeing right now is people aren't applying for jobs anymore. So maybe they're not, actively, just maybe actively looking compared to this time last year. But we're seeing companies pull jobs. They're thinking, hey, time out. We need to really, really evaluate. Do we need to hire this position? Can we give more to John and Stephanie and Fred and Becky? Can we give them more? I'm pretty sure come August, September, we're going to see more jobs being posted. But companies are going to have to let loose of the working from home a little bit. And they are, because people have already just said, well, listen, if you're not going to allow me to work from home, then I'm going to go look, somewhere else or buy.
Right.
I'm very concerned though with, current companies not leveling up the wages of their employees, because companies that have really realized that they have to, because when they bring on new people more than ever, they have to pay them more. But they're not leveling up their current employees. So once employees find that out, they're leaving. So the easiest way to give yourself a raise is just to quit and find a job doing the same thing somewhere else and making 20% more.
Hop around. Right.
It is. And with the average lifespan of a coworker being 3 or 4 years, and then they're leaving, or the company leaves them or whatever, people aren't afraid anymore to necessarily job hop. And so companies have to get over the fact of not hiring people that are job hoppers, because employees just aren't staying around, Brett, 20 even 5, 10, 20 years anymore. It just isn't the case.
No, that's very true. I was with my first company 19 years, second company 6 years, third company 3.5 years. And I'm a Gen X type of person. You go up to the millennials and even the Gen Zs that we're starting to see, and the loyalty is a lot less, right? So, and that's just the reality. So it's just happening. I just want to pause for a sec. Let's welcome. We've got Maria Malick. Hi, Maria. Thank you for tuning in. And
hey, real quick about Maria.
Yeah. Yes.
When I got to know her in January, she had 3,000 or 5,000 followers in January. She has over 100,000 now.
Yeah. So if you want to see somebody that really knows how to do it, that is highly relevant with what she does around speaking and giving introverts the confidence that they actually deserve and have within them to do public speaking and to be more assertive for themselves, Maria Malick is the person to do it. And 100,000 people have realized that just since, when did you say, January? Something like that, right?
This year, not like 2 years ago, not last
6
year.
months.
This
6
year.
months, right? Yeah.
Crazy.
Half a year.
It's awesome.
Yeah. So a couple thousand to 100,000, pretty amazing. Yeah. But that's relevance, right? So, okay, great. Clifford Watkin, thank you for joining us as well. Clifford says, great conversation so far. We've got Gary Spencer. Gary, my friend from Birmingham in the UK. Gary, thanks for tuning in on a Friday evening. We've got Joe Gonzalez from Miami, live Feed the Fish, Joe says. So we've got Lygia from, I think, Costa Rica, right, Lygia? Thank you for joining in. Really appreciate you have great content. People need to be following you as well. We've got, let's see, Jennifer Jackson live from Wichita, Kansas. So I've got family over in Wichita. We've got Gary has a question. Gary Spencer from Birmingham has a question. David, question for you. Would you agree that leading from the ground up sounds great, but leaders who lead from the foundations up build the best teams that thrive and become resilient during times like the one we've just had, consolidating what is not seen in the foundations of our staff is vital? Would you agree with that? Any comment?
I'm gonna comment in this way.
Mm.
When I learned it's never about yesterday, meaning Bad day, good day, mediocre day. Okay, you talk about it, you identify it, right? But you don't live in yesterday. So I think that leaders that understand it's just about, again, what you're doing today to fix that. You can't
Yep.
be that leader. Brett, your numbers sucked yesterday. I don't know how many times I've talked to you about this, right? No, it's supporting them, briefly talking about it, and figuring out what we're going to do today. When your teams realize that you lead by that, I know when I was a district manager, my boss during my annual reviews loved that I did that, because I'm able to let go of yesterday. Because when you do as a leader, not just just
Right.
an employee, but when you can do that as a leader, that's very powerful to the people that you're leading, whether it's good or bad, because again, they understand that it's about how to. Now, obviously, if I've had that same conversation with you, Brett, then maybe it's something different. But
Right.
but I agree. You just have to worry about what you're doing today. You can't worry too much in the future, and you can't dwell on yesterday's numbers, whether good or bad. So
yeah, it's a fantastic point. And Gary, thanks for that question. Hope we answered that. Joe has chimed in here with a statistic. The last 5 years, employee turnover has cost organizations $233 billion. So pretty expensive. So it probably would take a lot less than that to pay some of the people to keep the top performers, right?
Oh yeah, but companies, they say, they see that labor dollar and that percentage on their P&L, and it's usually the biggest one, right? And how can we pay people more? Well, guess what? If you're still profiting, okay, I know your stakeholders are not going to like maybe that you're spending more money, but listen, sometimes you don't have to spend more money. As a leader, if you don't know what motivates each individual, team members, you're missing the boat, because a lot of times it isn't always about the money. It's being recognized, right? Maybe it's time off or whatever, but it always isn't about money. If they're happy in their position, they're rewarded by praise, follow-up, reviews.
Right.
People want annual reviews or semi-annual reviews, or they want constant follow-up, or feedback, even if it isn't always positive. If it's constructive, people want that. So you have to know. Like I had this seasoned manager that had been in the industry for a very long time. When I finally learned, he ran one of the best stores in all of the company as far as profit. When I realized I can't worry about Todd's numbers. I'll say his name, but I just won't say his last name. He ain't on LinkedIn. But when I realized that, okay, sure, in this one little sector of the business, he didn't do so well, but how could I manage, the other parts? And again, I guess you have to realize what battles you want to fight as a leader. If that person's getting you the results, sometimes you can't manage how they get them. I remember when I was first a district manager, I tried to manage how all my managers got the results instead of just worrying about the results. When I let loose of that a little bit, then again, great things happen. But you can't be that micromanager that worries about how they do things. Just worry about the results.
Yeah, and being as obsessed with the numbers actually does not really do anything for the number, right? Numbers are generated through activities and inspiring people to kind of keep going. You can't treat your sales force like some sleigh dog. You can't keep whipping the dogs and whipping them harder. Eventually, you wear them out, and they stop, or they say, "I can't do this anymore." And so much of sales gets a bad rap because people become obsessed with the numbers, and the old question that says, "What have you done for me lately?" Well, that's not very motivating, right? Because people kind of know that, right?
Yes. No, it's never about the numbers. So we had weekly numbers, and then on Saturday, if we didn't hit them, like my regional directors would want our teams to stay late
Mm.
at the end of the day on Saturday. We were closed on Sunday, but anyway. And my approach was, well, what did we do Monday through, Friday to not hit the numbers? So to be honest, I didn't want
Yep.
my teams to stay late, because then you are beating the dog. But on Monday, we talked about what did we do or not do to achieve it. So, okay, let's focus.
Right.
Let's focus on that, because again, you can't focus on the numbers. You could focus on what got you or didn't, get you those numbers. And that's teachable. That's trainable. That's coachable. Okay.
Exactly.
You can't coach a number. It's not possible. You can't coach a number. You could just coach the actions to get the number.
That's right. And you've got to get the numbers. I think we all understand that, right? So it's just a matter of how are you going to get the numbers, because otherwise you might not be around if you don't deliver those numbers. So it's the faster somebody can understand this point, David, that you're talking about, the quicker that they'll be successful in sales, even if they're running their own business, right? So
oh yes,
yeah.
But what if you have a higher up boss that's just hammering you for the? I tell you what, as a multi-unit manager, district manager that I was, even though my regional director might say this, and this, I didn't disseminate that to my teams. Okay, I
Right.
talked about what I needed to.
Exactly.
I let my boss vent at me or whatever, because at the end of the day, he paid me to manage my teams, and you can't.
Right.
But I know there's a lot of pressure. Yes, but you can't manage the numbers.
Yeah,
You just have to
and
manage
great
manage
leaders.
activity.
That's right. You're exactly right. Great leaders find a way to absorb and kind of serve as a buffer, a filter for that pressure, where hopefully the people
It's not
don't
easy,
even see
but
it.
yes,
It's not easy. That's right. But that's
it's not
part of
easy.
the paycheck, as they say with that. Rena Streel, thank you for tuning in. It must be quite early in the morning, but I know that Rena's an early bird in Australia. So it's 6:30 in the morning on Saturday. Thank you for tuning in here as well. Joe Gonzalez says people over profits. Yeah, I think we really hammered that point. And Kurt Guerrard, I hope I'm saying that right, that it's not all about the money. So true, David. He's agreeing with you on that point as well. And Gary appreciates the question. David, let's fast forward now to what you're doing now and talk to us a little bit about the transition period that obviously, so you going in retail, you've kind of started mastering the district manager role. Tell us why you're still not in that role, what happened, and how you wound up where you're at now.
Sure. So early 2019, I was really worried that the company that I was with, we were going to sell or franchise. And I'd been fired from them before, and they hired me back. So they must liked me. That's another story. But anyway, so I'm like, not again. I'm going to get on LinkedIn, and I'm going to really up my game on LinkedIn. I'm going to network and try to find my next job. So what did I do on LinkedIn? I started, providing tips on leadership and just different books I've read, just advice. And I found it fun, right? And I found that, some of the people liked what I was saying, right? And I've been writing resumes for a while anyway. So I started providing, as I was gaining new knowledge about LinkedIn, I was providing tips on LinkedIn as much as I knew at the time, and resume tips and interviewing advice, and leaders, just different leadership, servant leadership, and started developing a little bit of following. And now more people are coming to me for free resumes, and I'm still working 55 plus hours a week at my day job. And then, then August of 2019, somebody says, your resume, Dave, landed me this job. I got to pay you. And I'm like, hey, I already said I'd do it for free. They're like, no, I got to pay you. So I said, okay. after that, I'm like, well, I can charge people. I
Yeah.
felt good about charging because I was seeing my clients were seeing results.
You were
So
relevant. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
yes. So for about 4 months, I'm working about doing my little side hustle on LinkedIn, right? For about 4 months, I was doing both. And, you know, I was struggling because, here I am working 55 plus hours a week, 5.5 days a week, and trying to find time to write resumes and stuff. And somebody told me, Dave, you'll know when your day job gets in the way. And it did. And that was like October-ish. So I told my boss, I gave my boss a 2 months notice, and said, I'm leaving in December to do this full time. And, my wife is seeing that I'm making some extra money, and I'm certain if I leave, I can make about the same amount of money, because I can kind of see it. And sure enough, I left December 13th of 2019 was my last day with in the rent-own industry with Rent-A-Center, and started doing this full time. And
Wow. Yeah.
I've been
How
blessed.
did you? Yeah. Sorry, David. How did you know? I mean, share that, because I think that's an important, like share with us how you knew that it was the time that your day job was getting in the way.
Sure. So, here I am making maybe about $5,000 a month doing my little, side hustle, and still more people coming to me. I'm either having to put them off because I am still devoted to my day job. Because at this point, this is just it's fun. I'm making
kind of a
some
side
extra
hustle,
money,
right? A side hustle.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. But again, I'm seeing the value. I'm having to tell people no and sending them to another resume writer because I can't, I just can't do anymore and still devote the time. So I cannot. The only thing I can say is you can feel the fact that you're only devoting this amount of time, but you're making this amount of money in clients. And then I'm doing the math in my head. I need to have about this many clients in order to leave. And here I am pushing off clients that I cannot serve.
Yeah. So it became quite clear that it's time to make the cut.
And so I did. And then of course you still don't know, because now I'm on my own, right? But once I have all of that day open, to help to provide advice and guidance on LinkedIn, to take more calls of potential clients, it was easy to see in even a couple weeks after leaving that I was going to be able to sustain this over time.
So how long, while you were doing your day job and then building as kind of a side hustle, the resume writing, how long were you doing that before it came time to say, okay, I'm ready to go full time with the resume?
Oh, at least 4 months. Now, when I look back at it,
4 months, only 4 months. Okay. Yeah.
Yes. Well, when I started charging people, but that 4 months to me felt like a year. Why?
Okay.
I have this day job, and I'm waking up early to talk to clients. After weekends. What weekends? I'm talking to clients on weekends.
Okay.
Too.
Yeah. So you're fully immersed in everything at this point.
Oh yeah. And my poor wife sees me less. My dogs see me less, maybe not going to the gym as much. So yeah, I am all in on both, which that's why it felt like a year, because I was working to, from morning until, but I needed to see, can I, that's sometimes the only way you can do this. I gave this advice out not too long ago. Somebody says, well, I want to know if opening this franchise would be a good job, a good idea. And I go, okay, this is easy. Go. And this person was pretty young. I go, okay, go get a job at a competitor or something. He's like, huh? I already work a full-time job. I'm like, I don't care. Go get a job to see, can you do this? I know you're going to be owning it and managing it, but You've got to know all of these positions. So sure enough, he did. For 3 months, he got this part-time job working at this place. And again, just to see if he liked it. Because what, you're going to buy into a business that you might not like. You almost have to do that it will help ensure that you're more successful quicker. I truly agree. Now, not everybody has the bandwidth or whatever you want to call it to do that, and I get it. But I had to be all in, as much as I could be, while doing my day job. I could not quit my day job and then hope to see. I almost had to prove it. And
first,
so,
you're right.
Yep, that's what I did. So again, if you have to suck it up and you have to work some extra, I think that's what you have to do almost.
So it's hard work, basically, right? And it's hard work, and I believe in the simple performance formula of hard work plus attitude. And you can't have one or the other. You got to do both, right? And you have to get, I think I heard you use two of my favorite words, all in, get all in, right? And dive into it as well. So your advice, in short, David, to people thinking about doing this would be to keep your day job, keep doing it, learn all you can about what you're heading towards, start your side hustle while you're doing this, build it up, and you'll know when the time is right because of your pipeline and pro forma revenues and that type of thing. And when the day job gets in the way of your dream job, then cut the cord and go all in.
And it's the easiest way too, because yes, you've proved it, it's proof of concept, basically. It really is, because, you can figure out, hey, I'm only devoting this amount of time, but I'm doing this or whatever. Find mentors on LinkedIn. That's what I did. I mean, I had people that wrote resumes that were willing to help provide advice. You find out, and you don't have to get it all right. I still didn't have a CRM. I didn't have all of this fun stuff. I barely had a calendar. Most of the time I got an Excel spreadsheet and keeping track of clients, because if you wait to get it 100% right, that will never come. Right? It won't. You can't have everything. What did I have? I had clients coming in. Great. I didn't have a website yet. Who cares? I have clients coming in. I didn't have a calendar or spreadsheet. Who cares? I had clients coming in. You can get some of that other things right during the process after you leave your day job. So.
Yeah, you don't have to go buy that fancy camera. You don't have to buy that, just get the basics, right? And some people can start. I talked to a lot of successful entrepreneurs that started with their phone and their smartphone, right? And it's okay to do that, right? And you don't have to have the top of the line smartphone to do it, right? With a blurred background. It's okay, right? So just get going with it, and but don't quit your job until you can, prove the concept. I think I'm hoping that a lot of people will pick up that advice, right? Because, go ahead, Dave.
And for me too, it was proof of concept. So my wife, when my wife gave me the okay, even though I felt pretty good on my own, I needed my wife's not necessarily support isn't the right word, but she could see the results as well too. So obviously more comfortable in, still a little scary, but she could see the confidence in the fact that I was making a difference.
And that's important, right? Because she can see it's a function of revenues, less cost equals profit. And she can see that coming in, because this is going to be a important part of your livelihood for both of you. So the spouse partner check is a really important check as well, because ultimately success is a partnership in any family as well, right? Give and take from everybody. So that's how it's worked in my family as well. So that's really good. Okay, good. So was there ever a time, David, in this journey that you've just talked about, that you kind of questioned it and said, okay, well, it's kind of going well, or were you just so busy that you just knew it would happen? Did you ever question and think you should go back to the corporate? Or
I mean,
yeah.
I've had some lives with some people that when we get talking, about what I did before, kind of like what we're doing today, that I miss it.
Yep.
I miss it, but not
regret
not
it.
enough. Yes, miss it because yeah, I like traveling to the different stores and really being in the lives of of my teams. I really enjoyed that. I really did. That's what
Yep.
I miss. I don't miss the day in, day out and never. And yeah, you're right. Usually too busy. So too busy to necessarily work.
Right.
Now,
Yeah.
I might have a bad month or not a month as good as normal, but then all of a sudden you get busy again. And that's when, when you have a business like mine with not steady, well, the money's coming in, but it might not be this much this week or whatever. You just have to, you already have proved it. So you just have to stick with it and just know those things happen. So.
Right. And what would you say that obviously LinkedIn is a really important platform for you to build your business? Is it the only platform, your main platform? And where do you see that being 5 years from now in your business?
Sure. I post on all the other social media, but here's the thing. I shouldn't. I probably have really no business posting because guess what? I don't go back and engage. I don't. Why?
Right.
I just don't have the. I don't have the time or support. And to be honest, if you're getting it really from one place, like I am from LinkedIn, then you know what? Then just stay there. I think you work what's best for you. I have a friend of mine that he is in the fitness industry and creates fitness, programs and nutrition for people. And he does it all on Facebook. And his Facebook group is huge. It's huge. But every time I converse with him, I'm like, you should be over here on LinkedIn too, because you might get more business or whatever. But again, he's all in there and he's doing great. So what I would say is, again, you stick with one. You don't have to be everywhere. You don't have to be, but you have to be in a space that's, that is working for you. If you want to slowly branch out or whatever, or you're looking to really scale, and you can facilitate that across multiple, but every platform is so different. And I think for me, I have a relationship with LinkedIn. I really think I treat it like a relationship. I have a relationship with LinkedIn. There's certain things I love about the platform. There's things about the other platforms I just don't. So I have a relationship with LinkedIn, and the relationship is good.
Right. Yeah. And it's working quite well. Where do you think, David, your legacy will be 20 years from now, 10 years from now, doing what you're doing now? And how does that differ from what you thought it would be had you stayed in retail?
Sure. I want to get to the place where not only am I just providing, resume and career coaching or whatever, but that I can serve more people. Now, sure, with people think, well, that's because you want to make more money. Not necessarily. I want to impact more lives. How can I do that? What does that look like? Well, I'm patiently aggressive, meaning I'm patient that I know things take time. I'm aggressive with actions to, potentially get there. So, 5, 10, 15 years from now, I don't think I'll be always writing, maybe a ton of resumes, but maybe I'll have teams of, but I want to help more and reach more people. That's why I started the newsletter I started. If I can provide advice or guidance, Brett, that you're a job seeker and you're struggling, but the free advice I give you allows you to get what you want, well, then so be it. I feel a lot of pride that I was able to help you, even if no money, transacted. So I want to impact more lives. What that exactly looked like, I don't know at this point in time. So.
Right. I think that's a wonderful legacy to have. And I believe that you'll actually achieve that, my friend. This newsletter, so you've had it for what, 2-3 weeks, and you've got 20,000 subscribers, something
Yeah,
like that.
yeah, almost 18,000. I'm sure it'll be
18,000.
20,000 by next
Yeah.
week. It's crazy. It's crazy in 3 weeks' time. I know people that have millions of followers that have newsletters that don't have the. Now, listen, LinkedIn, job seeker newsletter. I get it, but I'm going to use it as a platform also, sharing the talents of others, having them share articles in it. So it doesn't always have to be about me. At the end of the day, it's a way for me to reach and impact more people that maybe I'll even never get to know them or interact with them. But it's a great starting point to help more people.
Well, there's a lot of people, and there's people watching this program right now. I know these lurkers that are out there that never engage, but they're really into the relevance that you're delivering, right? There's a lot of free stuff out there, the newsletter being one of those, but free doesn't mean cheap, right? And maybe you could talk about that for a moment on LinkedIn, that it's not about making money and tomorrow or today on LinkedIn. It's really a long game. And could you talk about how the success formula operates on LinkedIn, so that maybe give some advice to people on why patience might be important with the platform?
Sure. Yeah, sure. So I treat it like my previous background, right? Being a leader. You don't chase the numbers, right? You chase the things that, so on LinkedIn, you have to be in it for the long game. Everybody starts with 0 followers, 0 connections, right? It's all going to take time, but it snowballs. What I learned quickly on LinkedIn is, when you provide advice and guidance, then you're seen as a subject matter expert about whatever you're talking about. And you could be, the very first video I did on LinkedIn was about 401ks. Why? It was my 50th birthday, January 24th, 2019, 50th birthday. I was happy I was 50 because I got to contribute more to my 401k. Not everybody knows that. They don't.
Right.
They think that the max is whatever, like 19,000, but now I think it's about 26,000 if you're 50. You can play the catch-up game. So that's what I shared. So when you share what you're a subject matter expert about, and I use the word expert, some people don't like it, but because they think if you are an expert, but there's not one expert in every. There's not just one expert in every industry, and then that's it. You have to wait for that person to die to become the next expert, right? That's not when somebody gets value from you, then I don't care, call yourself an expert, whatever you want to call yourself, but there's always going to be different various levels. So when you provide advice and guidance to others and it benefits them, for me, that feels good when somebody got something from what the advice, the tips that I gave. So that's what you want to do, and you want to be consistent, but it can't be all about you. You gotta comment. You gotta engage with other people's content. You have to be willing to take calls, take networking. Now, sure, you might be busy, but the only way to really build a true network or family on LinkedIn is you gotta give way more than you receive. And that means, I spend the first hour of my day engaging with content, and then I post. Why? Well, if those people are important to you, well, then, again, it's the same way. If you're a leader, be a leader here on LinkedIn, and that means you gotta care about your team, and your team is the potential, the LinkedIn community there.
And I think that's one reason, a big reason, or the main reason why you have so many followers and people come to you for you're my go-to source if somebody needs information. I think this on finding a job, right? And it's because it's not just because you're top of mind, but it's because there are changes going on right now in the pandemic era economy, and you're on top of them. And so the stuff that you post is highly relevant because things are changing by the day, but you're on top of it. So if somebody's looking for a job, then they need to be dealing with somebody that understands what is going on in the current economy, because things are very different than they were a year ago. and that type of thing. We've got, as I mentioned, Rena is here on the program, and people need to follow Rena. You could follow, I follow her for nutrition advice, for recipes. This is all stuff that she does, puts out there for free. Places to go. My list is getting long to go in Western Australia for travel, all of this stuff. And there's so many more. That I learned about hippos the other day, right? And I had encountered hippos when I was living and working in Africa, but she taught me something about hippos that I didn't know before. So there's a lot of people that understand this model. And I think that's the piece of advice I'd like for the viewers to give here is that you're going to get out of it a lot more than you put into it, but it's a long game, and you need to contribute, and you need to contribute something that's relevant that other people can do. Joe, for example, is up every day at 3-4 o'clock in the morning in the gym, and he's contributing people on. I still swear that he wants to get people off of caffeine, right? And just watch him. And but that's relevant information. And if you just look at the comments on Joe Gonzalez every day, is that he's uplifting people every single day with how to improve an aspect of their life. The same thing that you're doing, except the content's different for job seekers. Same thing that Rena's doing for, Joe just said 2:30 a.m. Eastern. So sorry, Joe, I was an hour off here. So anyway.
It's almost Joe's bedtime.
Yeah, it's almost his bed. Yeah, I'm surprised, Joe, that you're still awake right now. So you're supposed to get those 8 hours of sleep here. So Rena will tell you all about that too. She knows about sleep as well. But anyway, I think that's a great point, David, as well. David, I promised the viewers at the beginning that we would define what bots is and tell people about why understanding the bots and dealing with bots is so important. Could you give us a 60 to 90 second answer to that? Yeah.
And we're not talking about like RPG2 bots. Okay. So we're not talking about, so in its simplest form, companies are getting hundreds of applicants per job, hundreds. When I say hundreds, 400, 600, not uncommon. So that being said, long time ago, companies developed software to do what? Compare that resume to the job description, or they have a recruiter going in, keying in some keywords to filter. So great people, qualified people that are applying for jobs never get their resume seen because of what? They don't have enough of the harder soft skills or industry terminology on the resume to beat the quote unquote ATS bots or the evil resume.
So it gets filtered out. It just gets in file 13.
So what really happens is they're looking to identify just the ones that make the cut, I guess you could say. Most companies use this. So there is free software out there that allows you to do this. What I do for my clients is, besides writing their resume, I find out like different jobs they're interested in, because I want them to send those to me, because at the end, I compare that new resume to those jobs. I look for missing key hard and soft skills that are missing, ones that we're comfortable, that they know. We place those in there to improve their likelihood of them receiving. Now, some HR people or recruiters will come on and say, there is no such thing, though there is. I don't know why they say that, because Amazon and all the big companies use it. I only know this because my recruiter used it when I was working at the previous company. So by doing so, you will increase the likelihood of your resume being seen. There's plenty of free software out there, or that costs very, very little, that allows you to do it. Very little money, but it can improve the chances of you, actually getting that filtering.
So if people hire you, you basically take care of this challenge for them, right?
Yeah, I can never guarantee that, you're going to get a call, but if you look at my LinkedIn recommendations, you're going to see that a lot of my clients get a lot of good results, because I care that for me, it's not ever about writing a great resume. It's about getting you that job. How do I get that job? I got to be able to tell that story. I got to get past the bots. I got to get them to your LinkedIn profile as well too, because we know they're not going to spend much time on your resume. Your resume is a formality to get you an interview, but then we got to get them over to your LinkedIn profile to even see more of that value add that you can add there.
Right. And then the networking is another part that you do as well, right? You talk about that briefly.
Sure. Yeah. So I'm just going to give it away. And if you want this in detail, you email it to me and I can email you a PDF, or you can get it from my website. Yep. So on LinkedIn, a good strategy, Brett, if you see a job as a project manager at Amazon that you want to apply for, this is easy. I know I'm going to go over this fast, so if you want it, just ask. You're going to go to LinkedIn. You're going to type in that job title, project manager. Then you're going to select people. You're going to go to current company. You're going to type in Amazon, and then you're going to filter. You're going to message people that work in that job, in that position at that same job you want to apply for. Why? Messaging recruiters, total waste of your time. They get bombarded by people all the time, so they're never going to respond. Messaging people in the same or similar role benefits you because they know transferable skills, and there could be something in it financially for them in the form of a potential referral. So people that do that consistently, the worst thing that's going to happen, Brett, is you're going to be connecting to people in the industries with the companies and the positions you want anyway. That's the worst thing. The best thing is you may get an interview. You may get a referral. Yeah. LinkedIn's the only platform that makes that search so easy.
Yeah. So there you have it, everybody. So that's a way to do it. Amazon's the example, but I can tell you it'll work that way at any company, anywhere. So I think that's absolutely fantastic. So that's great. David, great. Any parting words? What's the best way for people, the absolute best way for people to reach you? Is it LinkedIn? Is that the best way, and the second best way maybe?
It is LinkedIn, and the second best way is LinkedIn.
Okay. Fantastic. That's great. David, we've gone a little bit over an hour. I'd like to thank everybody that tuned in live here. So thank you for taking the time out of your evening for a lot of you, and also afternoon. Really appreciate the engagement. And for those of you watching on replay, please feel free to engage with David and I on replay. We're always around. We'll make sure we respond. Ask us anything. It's not a problem at all. And we'll be very happy to answer your question and share whatever information that we can to make your life better as well. So, David, I'd like to thank you for giving us an hour of your day on this Friday, and thanks so much for sharing the genesis of what led to you being where you're at today, and also for sharing where you're going to be 20 years from now in terms of a legacy. I believe you're going to have that, and that's because of your kind heart and all you do to help other people. So I think it's wonderful. So thank you for that.
Thank you for having me. And Joe, I'm going to the gym after this. So.
And he's going to bed. So that's right.
He's got to go to bed. He's got to
go to bed. So everybody, I'll be in touch next week with a announcement for a special guest, as we'll stay in North America next week, and more on that coming soon as well. So